the Nuzul, revelation of the Quran. So this month, the fasting and all the occasions are actually in celebration of the Quran. It's important for our Ummah to bring the Quran back in its life. Not in the sense just of reading it, because Alhamdulillah, we read the Quran, and many of the members of this Ummah of Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, everyone in the world, in the month of Ramadan, we listen to the Quran. But it is time to act upon the Quran, to take the Quran as a reference for our actions and for our work in this world, and for the stances and the positions we take on things. We sometimes deal with Islam in quite a, if I may say, a secular way, in which it becomes only a faith in the masjid. We read the Quran as other religions read their books, and we separate the Quran from life, from how we describe our reality and how we act upon that reality. It is very important to describe the reality well, to know what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has mentioned in the Quran about how to describe the reality of the world, the people who are believers, the people who are disbelievers, and people who are believers who have the responsibility of defending not just the believers, but defending the oppressed and maintaining justice and witnessing over humankind. It's the Quran telling us as Muslims. And sometimes we distance ourselves from that in many slogans and in many frameworks and structures that we develop in this world that take us away from that unity of the Ummah of Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. And that unity, how we see the world and how we describe it and how we divide people into mu'minun and kafirun and munafiqun. And the kafirun, some of them know the truth and they deny it, and some of them do not know the truth. Therefore, it's our responsibility to tell them about the truth. And when they deny it, then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala counts them for that. And how Islam is a way to describe life, to describe reality. And this month of Ramadan is high time for that. With what's happening in the world, especially in the land of the first Qibla and the third Haram, as we say, or the place of Al-Aqsa, it is very important to look at that place with a lens from the Book of Allah, so that we can describe it well. And the Book of Allah is not a simplistic description of things. It is quite complex, and it categorizes the people of the book into many categories, actually. Some believers and some disbelievers, and some corruptors and some reformers, and some know the truth and deny it, and some know the truth and accept it and follow Muhammad, etc. When you read the Book of Allah, you will divide the people of the book the right way. And when you have this right perception of what's happening, then our reaction would be the right reaction. Of course, other people coming from other frameworks might dislike what's happening, might have horrible feelings about what's happening in Palestine from a human rights perspective, or international law, or just a sense of decency as humans. In addition to that, it's very important for Muslims to have the right descriptions, the right labels of things. And if we are not going to do the right labeling in Ramadan, then we have a problem. We have a disconnect between the book that we are hearing. I read from Surah Al-Imran a little bit of the story of Al-Anbiya. Those Anbiya are not Christians or Jews or Zarathustra. They are Muslims. Isa was a Muslim. Musa was a Muslim. These are prophets of Islam. and people after them have distorted the truth. So the Quran is telling us, and went left, right with the books they inherited. And it's all right, like we have our faith and you have your faith. That is part of Islam too. But it's very important to describe the reality well, and not to describe Islam in a racial way or a geographic way. Islam is not about a particular race, it's not about a particular geography, and it's not even about a particular prophet. All prophets are prophets of Islam. Ibrahim was a prophet of Islam. ما كان إبراهيم يهوديا ولا نصرانيا. If I had read a little bit further in the Quran, I would have read that Ibrahim is not a Jew or a Christian. Ibrahim is Muslim. ولكن كان حنيفا مسلما وما كان من المشركين. And so forth. So just a quick reminder perhaps for myself and you in this month of Ramadan, as we read the book of Allah and as we hear the book of Allah, to internalize, to reflect, to do what the Quran calls tadabbur, tafakkur. And tadabbur and tafakkur will make us reflect on the reality, what we learn from the Quran. And when we do that as an ummah, then inshallah we will have a much, much better place in this world. We will define our enemies right and our friends right. We will define what is right and what is wrong, and what is, zawaj, and what is fahisha, and what is riba, and what is tijara, and what is, what is right and what is wrong. And we will be a very different ummah when we follow this book of Allah, that gift that we received in this month. We ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala forgiveness, and we ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to accept our humble works that we do in this month for His sake, and increase us in iman and knowledge, and increase our life in barakah and the life of all of our families and all whom we care about in the world. وبارك الله فيكم ورمضان كريم. السلام عليكم ورحمة الله.